Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. Today, we are doing our penultimate episode in our coverage of Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. We read chapters 52, 53, 54, and 55, wherein, things have really started to kick off here. So we got Ciri imprisoned in her room this whole time. We got Lightsong starts. We start out with Lightsong piling up all of his stuff in one room, and then things actually kind of turn interesting after that. He gets captured. Stuff goes bad. An old fisherman finds Nightblood, and things don't go well for him. Then Vivenna finds Nightblood, and things go, maybe a little bit better. Vasher's getting tortured a lot. Just the things are happening. We're gonna get into them. So in any case, I'm Data, and with me today is
Dak,
Joe,
and Jamie.
So hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
To emerge and to breathe anew, for a purpose so far from my own. And this world I've awoken to seems familiar but somehow unknown. And the branches of gold on the skyline reach out to the sweep of the stars. The beginnings and endings of lifetimes, a guidance of light from afar. Down, down, down.
So yeah, Sanderlanche happening, things just popping off every which way. What did you guys think of these 4 chapters?
Yeah. On the one hand, I was very, very right about Bluefingers. On the other hand, I was very, very wrong about Lightsong. So, we'll call it a draw. Yeah, fucking heaps of shit happening this time around. We lost 2 very big characters, Blushweaver and Trilides, and both times I was just like, oh no. Anyway, but yeah, it's nice to see confirmation of the Pankal uprising. So I'm kind of glad I called that one. Cool to see Vivenna going out grabbing the sword. I thought, oh okay, yep, let's see Vivenna get into the action here, and just yeah, all right. We're on the final wave. Let's ride this one and just see where it takes us.
Yeah, we had to stop really right in the middle of things. So
yeah,
I do like, you're like, yeah, we lost these 2 major characters, but neither of them was one that anyone really liked. So it's just like, oh no, oh well.
I think I felt it more for Blushweaver because Lightsong was really devastated, and I'm just like, all right, we got confirmation she was in league with the villains and tried to turn on them or whatever, and he's just like, oh no, like this person, like she was still kind of good. It's like, was she though?
She didn't know that she was in league with the bad guys. She thought she was working with the God King's priests. And
true, but still, it was kind of, she was like ultimately working for subversive gains, even if she didn't know what the real outcome was. She knew she was like conspiring.
Yeah, I mean, she thought she was, I guess, conspiring with the God King, which I don't. If he's the leader of the government, I don't even know that counts as conspiring. But
true enough, I guess. I don't know. She pushed for war, and she was kind of just like really a bit of a bitch about it. So
you're not wrong.
Yeah, these chapters, I mean, obviously this stuff is happening. None of it seems pretty great. In fact, most of our heroes, quote unquote, seem like they're in pretty bad predicaments. I agree with Dak. Like, I don't really care about Blushweaver being dead. I care even less about Trilides being dead. I don't know if we're supposed to care. I don't know if Brandon wanted us to care about these characters, but I certainly don't. He's got bad taste in women, this Lightsong guy. If she could be hoodwinked. Of course, I guess he was hoodwinked as well, but it's funny to me that it's like, it's weird that they're like all like, wait a minute, these aren't priests, these are Pankal people. And it's like, it's weird that they don't notice it, and then all of a sudden they really notice it.
Yeah, like everybody notices at the same time.
And it's just, I don't know, it's written weird, like, oh, their skin looks different. Huh. Yeah, they're not regular people. It's just, I don't know, it seems strangely written. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly coming to a conclusion. I don't know. I'm having trouble caring about the plight of any of these people right now.
Oh.
So we'll see how it ends up, I guess. But yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, that's fair. Like, you don't care about the plight of Vasher and Vivenna and Ciri?
I mean, a little bit. Vasher more than anybody else at this point. Honestly, he's the best character in my opinion. So yeah, I care kind of about him, but I figure, it's a book with heroes, so he'll probably survive.
Yeah, probably. Whatever.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot happened. I think we were expecting a lot to happen. We're really at that point. I agree with the guys. Blushweaver's death. I mean, I was shocked by it. I was shocked with how abruptly it happened. I wasn't shocked that she was down in the dungeon, so to speak, or involved. I think we already kind of knew she was involved in some level. Obviously, she's not the big bad, but I was kind of shocked they killed her so quickly. But I was sad for Lightsong, especially what we learnt. I think it was only last week or the week before from the annotations that he is actually in love with her. Although I think he can do better, I still feel for him and that he's sad because I do actually like Lightsong. I really enjoyed the bit between Larimar and Lightsong, and just this whole time we're like, is he a cop? Is he one of the 5
Scholars?
I want to say scholars. I was like professors. No, not wrong. That is wrong. Sorry. One of the 5 scholars. We're like, yeah, big predicaments, and he's like, you're I was like, okay, good with numbers, maybe investigative skills. I don't know. But to finally get a little bit of his story, I think I'm glad that we got that and it wasn't just glossed over. I was thinking only yesterday, so I have been re-listening to the earlier episode, and I was like, hang on a minute, we just kind of forgot about all the tunnels. Like, what's going on with the tunnels? So I'm glad that came back into play as well. Not sad about Trellides. I wish that if he was actually good, that we'd known he was good earlier, but I guess that's the point, really. Vivenna, I really hope this is her time to shine now. I really liked that she was able to do Vasha's awakening tricks with the clothing, and the cape worked quite well. So I'm excited to see what she does in our final episode of the book.
Yeah, that I was impressed with her. Like, Vasher's like, no, these are too complicated for you, and she just does them. So that's some skill. And you have a good point about Trellides also, where it's like it's kind of like a Snape thing, where it's like you can not be a bad guy and still be a jerk, and that was him this whole book basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we really didn't have that many interactions with him over time. It was just the ones that we did. We're like, oh, this guy.
From the first time he showed up, it's like, oh, this guy, yeah.
When he came to the door and was getting Siri out, I was like, oh my God, we've got this all wrong. He's not bad. Like, she's suspicious, of course, as you would be probably anyone getting to the door at that point. But I was like, oh no, he's actually looking out for them. Damn.
And then he dies. So whatever, I guess. Okay, I guess let's get into these, all of the craziness that's happening here. We do start off with Lightsong, who's just has all his servants bringing in all of the nice shit from his palace and piling it up. And he's just like, man, it doesn't look so nice when it's just all stuck in a pile, does it? And Larimar has
a reason for why he decided to pile his stuff up. Was he trying to make a point, or?
I'm unclear, honestly. Yeah, I don't know.
Because it even seems weird for Lightsong.
Yeah, it's a strange move for sure. I was thinking the same thing when I was reading. I was like, okay, is he about to make like a dramatic point? And then he didn't. Larimar's the one who made the point, and I was like, what's happening?
No, yeah, it's fair.
Maybe as a former accountant, he was just taking stock of what he had.
Look at all of my things. This makes me feel good to count everything.
Behold my stuff.
My stuff, yeah.
I can only imagine that maybe he was depressed because he didn't know what to do, so he was like, let's just pile all my crap in here.
And there were some hints dropped along the way. I don't know if you guys remember about Lightsong's true vocation when he was alive. Like, one of the things he discovered early on when he was testing out various things was that he was like excellent at math. Was one of the first things he discovered. And then I think in the last set of chapters, he uses the word statistical. And Brandon, there was an annotation where Brandon's like, yeah, I intentionally dropped that in here. It's kind of an unusual word in the rest of the book, but he has reasons.
I mean, his little case study of like counting how many priests went in and out there. Now you think about it, it's like, okay, that actually makes a lot of sense, but it's definitely a less exciting vocation than the others we were predicting.
Yeah, a little bit less exciting. And so, so Larimar asks, what is the point of all of this? And Lightsong says, this is what I mean to them, the people. They'll give up their riches for me. They'll sacrifice their breath. Many would probably even die for me. And all I'm expected to do at this moment is choose their fates for them. And so he gets Larimar to kind of advise him, which Larimar's like, I'm not supposed to, tell you what to do. I can argue either side, but eventually Larimar takes off his hat and he's like, okay, as a friend, not your priest, as your friend. And Larimar's suggestion is we go to war, but we don't attack and kill these people. We use the threat of it to negotiate for better use of the northern passes. And they have to officially renounce their claims to our throne or whatever. And Larimar has an extremely reasonable, I think, argument here where he's like, this is an approach we could take. And Lightsong's like, that's actually a good idea, but I don't think that the people pushing for war would go for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, but why not? Why? Why is this happening now? Right after the wedding, when tensions should have been low, why are they so much higher? And Larimar goes like, I don't know. And he's like, okay, well, let's find out then. And there's Lightsong going off into the Sanderlanche. Let's do things.
Let's find out. A 1, a 2, a 3.
And then we cut back to Ciri, who's in her room and is like, am I going to be stuck in here forever? And she's thinking about those first 7 days or 11 days, however long it was that she was when she first got here. And she's like, this is actually worse than that. And in an annotation, Brandon says, look, I don't like necessarily putting Ciri in this damsel in distress position. It's kind of tropey or whatever. But I have this problem that Ciri's not Vin. She can't approach things the way that Vin would do it. So I have to give her her own way to approach things. And he says, since Ellen got to play the damsel in distress fairly often in the Mistborn books, I think I've earned the right to put a female protagonist into that role here, since it is appropriate for the plot.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, cool, whatever.
It's not like she's in it for all that long, but in this chapter at least. And so Lightsong decides that they're going to basically storm into Mercy Star's palace and go into that secret passage.
Secret tunnels.
He doesn't even know it's a tunnel. He knows that there's a secret door, and that's all.
That's true. He doesn't know the tunnels. Well, no, didn't they tell him it's a tunnel at some point?
Yeah, that's a fair point, because he was measuring how many people were coming in because he thought they were using the tunnels.
Yeah.
He does. Good point. And so he just blows past the guards and stuff and goes right down there. And when they get down there, Larimar's just like, oh, amazing. We found where they keep their flour.
I do like this bit in the book, because you could see Larimar super uncomfortable the whole time, and it keeps growing and growing. And so that when they're finally captured, the outburst is super believable, because he's just like, why are we doing this? We shouldn't be doing this. I don't want to do this. And he just keeps going along with him. And then when they get captured, he just is so angry.
Yeah, he keeps being like, maybe we should go back. Maybe we should go get help. When they find the tunnel, Lightsong's like, let's go. And he's like, well, I don't know if I'm going to fit in there, because Larimar's a big guy. And Lightsong's like, dude, I'm way bigger than you. Because Lightsong is inhumanly proportioned, being a returned. So Larimar's just constantly looking for reasons to go back. And he's even like, pardon me, Your Grace, it seems like you're getting too much enjoyment out of this experience. Lightsong's like, well, I am called Lightsong the Bold. About time I lived up to it.
It's did it have to be this way?
So they discover the tunnel that they're going down from Mercy Star's palace leads to the Lifeless Barracks. And there's actually a little trapdoor into each of the 4 Lifeless Barracks from down here in the tunnel. So somebody's been fiddling with the Lifeless secretly.
Was it Jules? Oh, no.
We don't see Jules, actually. I wonder where she and Claude have gotten to. And so they go down this main tunnel, and from further away than Larimar can hear, Lightsong can hear a talk. And so we've got Denth and somebody else talking. And Denth is like, see, I told you he was going to come for the princess's sister.
I mean, at this point, can we assume it's Bluefingers, or at least one of his cronies?
I don't think it can. I think it must be one of Bluefinger's people, because the conversation ends with Denth being like, yeah, you're not the boss of me. If you want to give me orders, go find your boss.
I guess that's true, yeah.
And so they want Denth to interrogate someone for them. They haven't said who. And he's like, I got stuff I got to do. Because he's got an old friend that he wants to torture. He says that he just had to pause to dispose of his monstrosity of a sword. And the guy's like, Denth, come back. And he's like, you didn't hire me, little man. If you want to make me do something, go get your boss. Until then, you know where to find me. And Lightsong's like, there's people up there talking about the war. I'm going to go find out who it is. And Lamar's like, no, maybe we should go back. And then Blushweaver gets dragged in.
Here's a funny idea, Your Grace. We could not do that.
We could not do that. Yeah. Not that
just...
Larimar has to go.
That's true. I guess like what we know later, it's like, well, I'm not gonna just leave my god brother to just hang out.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
Yeah, but it'd be nice if he was like, nah, man, let's just go back to the palace and chill. maybe smoke a blunt, just hang out. Weed fingers.
Weed fingers.
Good old weed fingers.
The guys drag Blushweaver in, and she's yelling like, "What are you doing? I'm a goddess. You can't do this." And then Lightsong's like, "Oh, well, I got to stop this now." And Larimar's like, "We should go for help." And Lightsong says, "We are the help." And he rushes in and knocks the guy over and takes his sword. And then he's like, "Oh man, watch me. I'm gonna sword it up." And it turns out he's not good with a sword.
No, so bold yet so stupid.
He gets very easily like his sword taken away, and he gets stabbed in the shoulder, and he starts screaming. He's like, "This is the worst pain I've ever felt. Oh gosh, I've been stabbed."
I did like this moment.
I thought he got sliced in the leg.
Let's see. The guard at his feet suddenly threw himself at Lightsong's legs, toppling him to the ground, and then one of the standing guards thrust his sword into Lightsong's thigh. And then, on mine, it's after that, it says, "The shoulder bled blood, as red as that of any mortal." So, yeah, mine may have a typo in here on either thigh or shoulder.
Now that you say that, though, I think mine said the same thing, but then later he talks about his leg hurting, so I don't know.
I'm trying to see if maybe he got stabbed twice, and I'm just... No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it's just typo. I found a couple other typos in my version of the book, too.
Well, yeah. Anyway, I like the end of the chapter is funny, Lightsong thought. That was not at all how I imagined this going.
Yeah, this was a good moment because it sort of built up that like Lightsong would actually be like, oh, he might actually be super competent at this. And then he just fucks it up in like the worst possible moment. It's like, yeah, all right, you had me going there. You fooled me.
Even if he was like a super awesome detective, that doesn't necessarily mean he's good with a sword. He shouldn't have assumed.
Well, he thought he was thinking he was one of like the city guardsmen or whatever who all carry swords. So I guess he thought he knew how to use a sword. And although in an earlier chapter he did say like, I bet if like I got my hands on a sword, I would be one of the best swordsmen in the city. And it's like, okay, well that's going a little far with it, dude. I mean, pick up like a stick that's shaped like a sword and test it out. Like making these assumptions gets you in trouble apparently. So the next chapter cuts to Vivenna, who's just kind of waiting around for Vasher to come back, and he doesn't come back for like all night essentially. And then we cut to Ciri, who has been in her room for a bit, and now Trellides shows up and he's like, shh, quiet, come with me. And so Brandon's annotations say, at this point, you're supposed to be confused about whose motivations are what. I'm not sure what you'll be thinking of the priests at this point in the story. Suffice it to say, Denth's men were in control of Ciri's chamber. And I'll pause there. Originally, when Ciri's, they're like, oh, you're pregnant. We're going to go and put you somewhere safe. In an earlier chapter's annotations, it mentions like, yes, these are some of the priests of the God King. They're putting her somewhere safe because things are starting to happen. They're actually worried that when war gets declared, like there's going to be rioting in the city and they'll need to protect her, essentially.
Yeah. Well, they did it in a weird way, but
yeah. And so at some point, Denth's men kill those guys, and then they're the ones outside Ciri's room. That's why at first she's got these priests, but then when Vasher shows up, there's soldiers outside her room. And then now Denth's men were in control of the chamber, but he left them to start torturing Vasher. And Trellides has brought his forces in and killed the guards outside that Denth left, and he's now they're now in control of the room long enough to get Ciri out. He also says Tonkfa wasn't there, as you'll soon discover. He's guarding the door to the room where Vasher and Denth are. He's just outside, and he has orders not to let Denth get interrupted. When things get out of hand in the palace, however, he goes to inform Denth of what's going on, and we'll see him in just a bit. So that's where those guys are. And Ciri is at first like, oh no, you're here to kill me or whatever, because she still thinks that the God King's priests are trying to kill him and that they're, imprisoning her or whatever, which, that's partially a little bit true. They were kind of imprisoning her. But Trellides is like, idiot, no, come on, we're trying to help you. And she hears fighting down the hallway, and they pull her away. And then we cut to old Chaps, who is out on the bay at night fishing.
I'll be honest. I was really confused here because my book, I'm on my phone, and the last section with Siri is at the bottom of the page, goes to the bottom of the page, and then the very next page starts with this guy, and I'm like, wait, who's talking now? What's happening? I was like, what? Why are we getting a perspective? Who's talking? This isn't Siri anymore. What's going on? I was very, very confused.
This is one of those that I was like, I bet Jamie will appreciate this, because when we get into the Sanderlanche, we start getting these random little point of views, and she usually likes those. So.
Yep. I I thought that straight away, and then my other thought was, okay, who's Chaps named after?
That's a good point. It doesn't. There's no mention of that in here. Hold on, let me see if there's a. Let me look up old Chaps.
Which old friend of Brandon's?
Let's see if it mentions. No, it doesn't say anything about old Chaps being named after anyone. Which you may not be surprised by that when you hear one of the annotations coming up here in a minute, but we'll get there.
Okay.
So old Chaps is out fishing at night because you're supposed to pay to fish, but at night they can't see you, so they can't make him pay. And he also has a side gig, not tonight, but sometimes he comes out here and dumps bodies for people.
Yeah, seems like a winning guy, this Chaps.
There's probably hundreds of them down there floating in the current with their feet weighted to the floor, a party of skeletons having a dance. Dance, dance, dance.
Is it weird? I kind of want like a short story about this guy.
Yeah,
just
Chaps, the body dumping dude.
Yeah, it's like you could do like a buddy comedy. Where like he's dumping a body, but it turns out to be not quite dead, and because he knows that, he has to go on the run with the not quite dead guy from the Halendran mob.
Okay, no, I like
boy.
this.
Yeah.
Okay, old Chaps is a little bit off, as you might be able to tell. And Brandon says in an annotation,
No, not Chaps.
Nightblood is better at communicating with people who are mentally unhinged. He can influence them more easily. Really, Denth, you should have known to toss Nightblood somewhere far deeper than the shallow bay.
Yeah, take that character I wrote.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's like he didn't have time, right? It's like, I want to get back to Basher. I'm just gonna go dump this sword somewhere real fast.
I got somebody to torture. I gotta hurry up.
Yeah, I got stuff to do. I got torturing to do. I got I got nipples to cut off and stuff.
Probably also frustrated because he knows that like, I can't trust anyone to dump this sword themselves. I have to do this myself.
Can't trust anybody. It's true.
Can't trust Tonkfa, that's for sure.
And I don't. And that it may sound familiar to you. We've seen somebody else who can communicate into people's minds and was better at communicating with them when they were mentally unhinged. So there's something kind of similar. Yeah, exactly. Or even Kelsier, when he was incorporeal, had sort of the same.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, mainly Ruin.
But yeah, well, Ruin needed the spikes to do it. Nightblood just is the spike.
Well, no, yeah, that's true. Ruin could communicate with mentally unhinged people without them being spiked. Like, I think the one thing, at least to some degree. Like, one thing said that he convinced Zane to spike himself because Zane was crazy, and so yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that at all.
And I don't think that Vin's mom was spiked that we know of, but she was super nuts, and so Ruin like got her to kill the one sister and create the spike to put into Vin. And I think that we get the distinct impression that he's talking to what's his name, Kelsier's mentor,
Geralt.
Gemmel.
Yeah, I was like, no, Geralt is from The Witcher.
Yeah, The Witcher.
Yeah, Gemmel.
Yeah. It's true.
But yeah, Light Song. Nightblood is talking to this guy from the ocean for sure. And he's just like, no, a little bit more to the right. And I love that Chaps is just like, yeah, the sea talks to me sometimes, tells me where to catch fish. So this is not at all unusual.
When he says that, I'm just like, what? And at first I'm like, okay, well, this is a weird trail we're going down. And then when you realize that it's Nightblood, you're like, wait, but what was he talking about before? He says the sea talks to him all the time, but this is obviously the first time the Nightblood's been in the bay. So what's happening?
Maybe the shard on this planet just like likes fucking with people.
I guess
that would be hilarious, actually.
I guess a fisherman would be crazy to want to be a folk singer.
It's like the shard is just fucking with old Chaps sometimes, so he pulls in his catch and it's like, oh no, a pufferfish.
Oh gosh.
Once I was like, all right, yep, just drop your lure right there. Yep.
Mm-hmm,
and now you've got a shark. Have fun with that.
Oh damn it! How did a shark get in the bay?
The shard put it there.
Yeah, right? The shard can do whatever, right? Nightblood gets pulled up and he's like, oh, nice. I hate the water. So wet, Nicky, down there.
It's true.
I don't suppose you'd want to destroy some evil, would you?
That's such a fun, like, introductory statement. I don't suppose you'd want to destroy some evil, would you?
Hey, kids, you want to buy some evil destruction?
Yeah.
Hey, kids.
You guys want to buy some fireworks?
You want to destroy some evil?
We
In the back of my
kill-
windowless van.
Oh no. We all destroy evil down here, Georgie.
And then we cut to Vasher, who is tied up to the ceiling in a completely color drained room. None of his clothes except like his underpants, basically. And Denth is going to do some torturing.
I mean, I know they don't have color, and I mean, there's no reason, I guess, for him to be naked, but why wouldn't you just take all the clothing? I mean, what are you trying to? Whose dignity are you trying to save?
It's funny because Brandon in the annotations mentions it's like I think he says his publisher thought that Vasher should be naked here. Hold on, that's not one of the ones I saved. Let me go back and.
Well, because that's what I was thinking. I was like, he was naked except for his underwear, and I'm like, wait, but why?
Yeah, why does Denth respect his junk?
I guess maybe Denth doesn't want to see his junk. I don't know.
So yeah, Moshi, his editor, wanted Vasher to be naked here, but I felt that keeping him in the white shorts was good enough. We've had a lot of nudity in this book, both male and female, and I didn't want to push it any further and distract from the discussion.
What male nudity have we had?
I don't recall now that you
What's
say
the
that.
guy in the prologue naked?
A lot of the we had the wrestlers. No, we didn't have the wrestlers. He was gonna have the naked wrestlers, and then he didn't. But like all
what?
The guys
Yeah,
in
do
the
you remember
games
when
when
Siri
Siri
was
goes to
watching
watch
the
the games,
games?
yeah, they're
Yeah.
wearing like
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
loin
It was
cloths
an
or
annotation
whatever.
where he said he
Yeah.
was going to make him naked, and then he didn't, to spare Siri her,
Righto.
See, a lot of the gods walk around not wearing much, but I don't recall a bunch of nudity now that you say that.
Yeah, maybe that guy at the beginning in the prologue was, but I don't remember.
But that would make even less sense because he was also being tortured.
Yeah.
Yeah, but by
not
different
Denth.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not by somebody who personally knew him.
Maybe he had like the blue undies with the rubber duckies printed on it. They're just like, no, that's too much color. Got to take those off.
Well, because essentially Dent's like his brother-in-law or whatever, because we find out like his sister was in love with him or whatever.
Yeah. So and he's got Vasher hanging from the ceiling. Maybe he's just like, I don't need that at eye level.
He's like, you might be wondering why I left you in your underpants. I think we both know the answer to that.
Just flapping there.
Denth says, I still owe you for Arsteel's death too. I want to know how you killed him. And Vasher says, in a duel. He's like, you didn't beat him in a duel, Vasher. I know it. Maybe I snuck up and stabbed him from behind. It's what he deserved. It's harsh,
Also,
dude.
like, is Vasher lying to him? Because at first it's like, I killed him in a duel, and he's like, no, you didn't. He's like, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me what I did. Maybe I stabbed him in the back. So like, I'm wondering, like, is Vasher telling the truth about the duel? And then he gets annoyed with Denth because Denth doesn't believe him. So he's like, whatever.
Maybe. We will find out by the end of the book exactly what happened. We'll give you
good
that.
times. Good
Good.
times.
That makes me happy.
Yeah.
But the annotation here says Vasher is wrong about Arsteel, by the way. Arsteel didn't need to be killed. Vasher misinterpreted the man's motives for joining with Denth. It's unfortunate the two came to blows, but Arsteel never intended to kill Vasher in the duel. Just subdue him and talk some sense into him. And then the
So
note,
it was a duel.
Oh, yeah, it's a duel.
Sense, as Arsteel saw it, he wasn't actually right in what he was doing. He didn't understand Vasher's reasoning either. All I'm saying is that Arsteel's motives were in fact pure.
So the real lesson here is just to communicate with your fucking friends. Just tell them,
Yeah,
hey man,
talk
this
it
is
out.
what's going on. Use your words.
Don't jump to duels. It's never a good
your
plan.
dignity's not impugned, man. Just talk. Just use your words, bro.
You won't be Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr and stuff. Like, there's no reason.
Yeah. There's no reason. Yeah. That's okay. Aaron Burr got what he deserved after that. His life sucked.
Arsteel was a good man. And Vasher's like, we were all good men once. And Denth's like, oh, is that what your little quest here is supposed to undo all the stuff you've done? And Vasher's like, better than being a mercenary and just working for whoever. I am what you made me, Denth said quietly.
Creepy.
And like Vasher points out that like you tricked Vivenna, also you killed her friend, and he's like, that thing's got out of hand. That's what he keeps saying. Like, things just got out of hand. And Vasher's like, they always seem to get out of hand with you. And the note here is that Denth has done a relatively good job at keeping Tonk Fa from murdering as often as he used to. Killing is sometimes necessary in Denth's opinion, but there's no need to go around killing people who don't need it. He's managed to rein Tonk Fa in it's a slight measure of the good that's left in Denth. So he's managed to get Tongfa to stick mostly to animals and not people.
Oh, well, bully for Denth. You've curtailed a serial killer into only killing animals. What a nice guy.
Here's your fucking medal.
Yeah.
You
want a cookie?
So and Denth's like, I get out of hand. Me, really? When was the last time I started a war? Slaughtered tens of thousands. You're the one who betrayed his closest friend and killed the woman who loved him.
Delicious knowledge nuggets.
So yeah, I don't remember if we learned in here for sure, but yes, they were. It's like Vasher and Shashara were married.
Oh, okay. I kind of figured like the woman who loved you or whatever he says. I was like, they're probably together,
But we learned that he's like, what can I say? That she needed to die. So basically, Shashara had figured out how to create Nightblood, and she was gonna share the commands with other people, so that other people could also make these swords. And he was like, nope, can't let that happen.
I wonder why. Also, we find out here that she's the one who figured out the single phrase lifeless command. So it's like, again, like, wonder why. Single breath, I meant.
Right, and she's a person, because we learned earlier, Vasher told us a lot of people who come up with cool commands don't share them with other people. They die. The command dies with them. Shashara, not that kind of person. She's like, when I figure out something cool, I want everybody to know, even if it starts a war, essentially.
I mean, I guess, but at the same time, it's like that's an error in like judgment, not because you don't like the knowledge should be free to everybody and you should always have knowledge or whatever. That part, like, I kind of get, but that's a knowledge that in the wrong hands can do a lot of harm. And so just by freely doling it out, like I guess to me, it's like if you figure that knowledge out, you have a responsibility to see that it's used wisely. At least by your own judgment, right? And so, like, I guess her judgment is that the wisest thing to do is to let everybody have it, but I just don't see eye to eye in that instance, I guess.
Yeah, it's like there's a reason the end of the 1954 Godzilla ends with like the guy has the weapon that could kill Godzilla and says, no, this is too dangerous to be used, and so when he dies and like no one else can use it again.
Yeah,
like that was the point. It's like you just. Yeah, like knowledge deserves to be shared freely, but very destructive knowledge. Let's maybe take a rain check on that.
Yeah, again, it's all about perspective, I guess. It's like from her perspective, it's like, why would somebody use this for something bad? Or maybe which we don't know her perspective. Her perspective may have been like, I don't care. Everybody needs to know everything.
Yeah, so, I guess the thing is, well, it's like as we know from Nightblood, it's like, yeah, the sword is destroying evil, but how does the sword know what evil is? He just kind of destroy.
Yeah.
And so she's like, oh yeah, this is what everyone needs. And I'm just like, hey, okay,
yeah,
science lady, I get where you're coming from, but maybe do some more sciencing, run a few more tests just to make sure it's something everyone deserves, rather than just go, well, that was a success for swords for all.
Yeah, I wonder, like, honestly, how long after Nightblood was created did she try to like say like, oh, I'm going to share all this knowledge? Like, was it immediately? Because obviously Vasher knew something was up with it. So, like, I don't know.
I believe we've seen a picture of her using Nightblood at the final battle of the Many War.
Okay,
so
it was her, not
painting?
Vasher.
Was that her in the painting, was it?
Yes, I think that is the idea, is that's her in the painting. That battle is the only time Nightblood was used during the war, and apparently it was just, like, so destructive that it convinced Vasher that we can't have more of this. The impression that I kind of get, because earlier maybe in the last section of chapters, we're told that Shashara was upset because she'd been shown up by Yestiel in the development of Ichor alcohol. So the impression I've always had is that she's like, oh man, he got all famous from inventing Ichor alcohol. I want to like show that I'm better than him. And so that's why she wants to make these things public for like the notoriety of it.
That's weird.
So that may not be accurate.
Weird,
that's just my
plausible.
impression. Yeah. And so, Vasher killed her, and that's Denth's sister. So Denth wants some revenge.
As you do for sister killing.
Yeah.
I'm reading. I know. Don't give me I told you so's, listeners, because I know somebody suggested this to me a long time ago. I'm reading, not watching, because I don't like the animation. I'm reading Demon Slayer, the manga, and Pretty much the whole premise of the show is like somebody killed my family and and then made my sister into a demon. I want revenge. So, I get it.
So it's like John Wick, but not the dog.
Well, and more noble than John Wick. Like, he's only killing demons. He's not killing other people.
Oh, okay. John Wick mostly just kills like assassins.
And he even feels bad about the demons that he
Oh.
kills.
And Denth is like, I was going to let Tonk Fa have you. He likes hurting things. With my direction, he's been able to restrict it to animals. So see, there you go.
Again, woohoo.
And so then we go back to Vivenna, who's been up all night, waiting for Vasher. He hasn't shown up. And she thinks, he's probably just out carousing somewhere. Because, that sounds so much like him.
Yeah, that's such an odd thing for her to think. Like, what are you talking about? When has he ever done that?
Well, I mean, she immediately thinks to herself, like, oh, yeah, that's a stupid thing to think, basically. Like, 'cause that's so much like him. So and she's just trying to find a reason why he's not back that doesn't involve him being in deep shit, basically, or dead. And eventually she does some more introspection. And she's like, okay, fine. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do something. I'm going to make myself useful. So she gets Vasher's spare clothing, the kind that he likes to awaken with like the little tassels and stuff. And she does the same thing. She awakens the cloak to protect me. The shirt, upon call, become my fingers and grip that which I must. And I'm kind of shocked that it works so quickly. I thought that she would have to try this a few times, but she gets it right off.
Yeah. Look, I know she's got like special magic blood or whatever, but I feel like this is not a cool moment for me because I'm like, she didn't earn this. Like, this isn't like Vasher's makes it sound like, oh, it's so hard, and then she's like, oh, I just did it.
You told me the commands and I used them. So
yeah, I just I thought this was kind of like, oh, well, this is the point in the story, like writing wise, it's like this is the point in the story where Ravenna needs to be able to do stuff, so now she can just do stuff.
Yeah. So we get to Lightsong and Blushweaver, who have been imprisoned, and like Blushweaver's crying. It wasn't supposed to go this way. I had things under control. I thought the God King's priesthood was on my side, and we were working together. And she's been working with them from the beginning. Her job was to get the command phrases. We came up with the plan together. But then they claimed I didn't do my part, that I was withholding things. And like he goes, were you? And then she just stares at him and is crying again. And then he turns to Larimar. He's like, Scoot, what do you use to pick a lock? Like, I bet if I get my hands on something, I'd be super good at lock picking. And Larimar's like, what is wrong with you? Like, he loses it here. He's like, you were a scribe, a color's cursed scribe, not a soldier, not a detective, not a thief. You were an accountant for a moneylender, and you were as much an idiot then as you are now. Do you ever think about things before you just go off and do them? And every time I get in trouble with you, nothing has changed. You become a god, and I still end up in prison. And so we get a note here so you can find out the backstory on that statement. By the way, this is only the second time Lightsong has landed them both in prison. The first happened a good 20 years earlier, even if Larimar has never gotten over it. It involved a whole lot of drinking. Larimar, already then an acolyte priest of the iridescent tomes, had never gotten good drunk, as his brother called it at the time. So he took him out on the day before his ordination as a full priest and got him solidly rip-roaring drunk. The embarrassment of what they did, landing themselves in prison for trying to bust into the court of the gods while wearing only their underclothing, nearly got Larimar tossed out of the priesthood. Needless to say, he did not make full priest the next day. It was 3 years before he was allowed to reapply. So yeah, there's what happened there.
I can understand him being a little bitter about it, especially when for the last however many years Lightsong's been a priest, Lightsong's been a god for. It's like, I can't tell you any of this. I can't vent this to you. It's very annoying.
Yeah, that would be. You know. And so the guys dressed like priests, which we find out in a bit are not priests. They're like, Lightsong, we're going to need your command phrases. He's like, sorry to say I forgot them. You may know my reputation for being weak-minded. I mean, what kind of fool would come charging in here and get himself captured so easily? And then he just sighs and waves to the others, and they pull Blushweaver out of her cage and cut her throat with no preamble.
Dude, I was about to say, this was pretty brutal. No hesitation. This was probably the most metal part of the chapters.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
like,
agree with that.
It's like, we're not even going to really have any more discussion with you about this. We're just going to take your girlfriend and cut her throat in front of you.
And Brandon says that his editor was uncomfortable with the way this happened. He felt the motivation for the killers wasn't solid enough. I tried to put in a little bit more to placate Moshi, but I always felt that they were solid. Bad guys in books often do stupid things, and it annoys me. They're not allowed to do the smartest things they could because it would ruin the plot. I wanted them to do the smart thing here, and I felt that was to kill Blushweaver. Just threatening her wouldn't have worked with Lightsong. He refused to take things seriously, and a threat would have earned mockery and frustration. So not knowing that he loved her, they killed Blushweaver to show how serious they were. Then they grabbed Larimar, not intending to actually kill him, as they knew he was their best bargaining chip. If Lightsong had not talked, they'd have started cutting off Larimar's fingers. So yeah.
Yep. That works. I'll pay it.
The guy's like, I'm sorry we had to do that, but we've heard that, you don't take things seriously, and I wanted you to understand that this was serious. So if you don't do what we want, other people are going to die. I'm going to need those command phrases. This is important. And Lightsong, still bold, to his credit, is like, you can beat them out of me. He's like, no, we're actually new to all this. We don't know how to torture very well. And the person who does know how to torture is like not being helpful. So never pay a mercenary before the job is done.
I love how candid they are. It's like, look, man, it's our first day, so we're just seeing how this all works. All right.
Like, we don't know that much about this, so we're just trying to do the best we can. So yeah, they pull out Larimar. Like, we're serious, Lightsong. Very, very serious. You know that we will kill this guy if you don't do what we say. And so he gives them the command phrase, Red Panther. That's it. Let him go. I hope you haven't lied to us, Lightsong. We're not playing games. It would be unfortunate if we discovered that you still are. And yeah, the chapter ends with him staring at Blushweaver's dead body, hoping that maybe she's faking it somehow. And we cut to Vivenna, who goes up to a beggar. He's like, hey, what's the word, Tuft? And this guy doesn't want to talk to her. She kind of butters him up a little bit and then gives him a value or a colorful piece of cloth that she knows he can sell.
I also like how he doesn't understand her turn of phrase. He's like, what do you mean? What's the word?
He says, why do I care? She's like, come on. You kicked me out of this spot on 3 different occasions. I figure you owe me something. He's like, I don't know nobody nothing. But he tells her something's going on down at the 3rd dock slums. Check around there. Maybe you'll find what you're looking for. And we cut back to Vasher as the sun is dawning. He's been tortured half the night. But it says he's been tortured enough that he knows how to give the torturer what they want. He knows how to scream right for them while he's still trying to save his strength. He's got a bunch of cuts, and the cuts have been drenched in lemon juice. That's mean.
Ow.
Mm.
Also, that would piss you off, or piss here's Vasher. That's just got to piss Denth off.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, he's just playing with you guys.
Vasher smiles at him, and he's like, not as much fun as you thought, is it, Denth? So yeah, I mean, that would piss me off if I'm torturing this guy. Torturing me won't bring her back. And Denth says, no, it won't. And he picks up another knife. And then we get Ciri, and the priests bring her to the God King, and she's like, oh, yeah, Susebron, you're here. And Trellides doesn't want to tell her anything, and she has to be like, I'm your queen. You will answer my questions. And he's like, okay, fine. Some Lifeless are attacking the palace. We're trying to get you guys out. We don't know who's in charge of these Lifeless. We have no idea what's going on. Just somebody is attacking. Where are those reinforcements I demanded? And Bluefingers is like, they're not coming, Your Grace. The enemy has taken the East Wing. And so Trellides tells Bluefingers to take the God King and Ciri and get them out of here. Get to the docks. And Ciri's like, oh, good. This is like what I wanted. Bluefingers is going to help get us to safety. He's the guy that I trust. And then she has a moment. She's like, she remembers the advice that Lightsong gave her about don't make waves until you're ready. Look non-threatening, or don't look non-threatening, but look like average. Just not good enough to threaten anybody really, but not like completely innocent either. And she's like, huh. I bet other people know that advice too. And she becomes suspicious of Bluefingers, the one person that she's trusted. And she starts thinking exactly kind of what Dak has theorized was going on. It's like, who would want both of these countries destroyed by war? And she's like, oh, wait. And she just goes into it like, you're from Pancall, but everyone just assumes you're Halandran. You were here first. This used to be your kingdom. And now you're just like these conquered people who everyone like doesn't even give much thought to. There's like, oh yeah, you're just one of us, even though you're second-class citizens, because you're technically not. And Bluefingers turns and runs because she's figured out too much.
She's like, I gotta get out of here. Jeez it.
And I like the moment where she turns to Susebron and she's like, "You were right all along. We should have trusted your priests." And Trelides is like, "Okay, well," she tells him Bluefingers has betrayed us. And he says, "Okay, we go for the front gates then and try to fight our way out." They don't have a huge force at this point, so it's not looking great. Vivenna gets to where she was directed, and there's a big crowd of people showing exactly where she should go. And they try to stop her from going into this warehouse, but she hears Nightblood's voice in her head, and he's like, "Vivenna, come get me." And she goes in, and there's a lot of dead guys, including an old man with a leathery face who has Nightblood shoved through his own chest. And so I love this annotation. Is one of my favorites. It was sad to kill off old chaps so fast, but at least he went out with style. Besides, as you may guess, he wasn't a very good person. He quite literally sold out his own mother once. He wanted her apartment, so he pinned a theft on her when he was a teenager. That's the room that he's still living in. He didn't realize in his youth that she didn't even own the place, and all he ended up inheriting was a rent payment. Not exactly the brightest guy around, but at least he waited until after she died in prison to tie rocks to her feet and toss her into the bay.
Oh,
What the fuck?
Right?
This guy's a class act, it sounds like, huh?
So yeah, don't feel too bad about not getting the old chap's short story.
Well, I mean, it could still be entertaining.
That's true. That's fair. And so Nightblood's like, "Vivenna, you found me. I'm so excited. I tried to get him to take me to the court of the gods, but it didn't work out very well. I did well, right? Veritrelides threw me in the ocean, but I got back out. I'm quite satisfied. You should tell me what I did well. Oh, by the way, Vasher's hurt. I think we should go find him. He's at the God King's palace. He was trying to save your sister, but Veritrelides stopped us." And she's like, "Wait, who? Oh, yeah, you call him Denth. He's Shishara's brother. I wonder if she's here, too. I'm not sure why he threw me in the water. I thought he liked me." And so another annotation. I have a lot of these today. I'm sorry. Nightblood was interesting to write in this book as he makes a very nice contrast to Vasher. Vasher doesn't want to say anything about his past. He's so tight-lipped about it, he rarely even spends any time thinking about it. Nightblood, however, dwells quite heavily on the past. Though in some ways his mind is very capable, he has the quirk of being an awakened object. The first hours of his life, during which time he met Shishara, Denth, and Vasher, imprinted on him heavily. It's like a part of his mind is hard-forged at that moment with read-only memory that cannot be changed. Much of him can learn and grow, despite what Vasher says, but he cannot overwrite those initial concepts, states, and understandings that were burned into him during his birth. Shishara was alive then, so he'll always think of her as alive, even if 1,000 years pass. Denth will always be pleased with him. Vasher will always be friends with the other two. Those things were some of Nightblood's first impressions. So yeah, that's what's going on here. Where he's like, "Man, I thought that guy liked me." And so Vivenna goes to pick Nightblood up, but with a cloth, so she didn't have to touch him. And he's like, "Oh, you don't have to do that. The old man cleaned me off after he got me out of the water." I like the idea. It's like, don't worry about the blood and stuff. The water's gone. That was the.
Yeah, I mean, I soaked up all the red blood. It's fine.
And so Lightsong and Larimar back in their cages, and Lightsong's just depressed. Like, what good is being a god when you can't do anything? Gods don't die like that. A little cut. And Larimar's like, "Look, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled at you." And he's just like, "None of us are gods. Those dreams are lies if they led me to this." Shouldn't people listen to the one they worship, particularly if he's telling you not to worship him? "I'm just an idiot, a scribe, a coward." And Larimar says, "No, you're not a coward. You were a scribe, and you were one of the best men I'd ever known. You were my brother." So it turns out that Larimar was a priest working for Kind Winds the Honest, but the Kind Winds the Honest lied a lot to play political games, and it kind of tested Larimar's faith, and he's about to quit the priesthood when he and his brother go out sailing on a ship, and there's a storm, and Lightsong dies rescuing his daughter. Says she was your favorite niece. Still would be, I assume, if you hadn't, And so he finds his brother dead and is crying over his body, and then the colors started to glow, and you lifted your head up and got larger. And I knew at that moment, if a man like you was chosen to return, a man who died to save another, then the iridescent tones were real, the visions were real, and the gods were real. And we find out that his original name was Stenimar. I kind of like Lightsong better, to be honest.
Not the worst name we've heard.
Yeah. You are a god to me, at least. It doesn't matter how easily you can be killed, how much breath you have, or how you look. It has to do with who you are and what you mean. And that's the end of that chapter.
That's such a nice moment.
Yeah. It's a very sweet moment learning Lightsong's history. It's not as, integral to the other parts of the story. It's not like, a big secret identity reveal, but I like it.
Yeah. And he did. We know how he died, and he was bold, and he was rescuing someone that he loved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's nice.
I think Larimar's right. He deserves to be here.
It's a very Batman Begins moment. So it's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me.
It's true. We cut back to Trellides and Ciri and the crew. They're fighting at the front gates. The insurgents are fighting each other. We might be able to get out. Where did they get so many lifeless? Which, remember, Lightsong gave them his code, so they now have command of all 40,000 lifeless. I don't think that you guys are going to beat that. And Ciri is kind of annoyed that, they want to protect Susebron, but they treat him like a child. They don't, she says they give him respect, but they obviously gave no thought to ask his opinion. So it makes sense, given what we know about how they raised this guy. And so Trellidy says, there's something I need you to know in case we die and you survive. You cannot bear the God King a child. Like all returned, he's unable to sire a child. And she's like, yeah, you have a returned infant. Yeah, we figured that part out. And you're planning on killing him, aren't you? And taking his breath and leaving him to die. And Charlie's like, what? No. How could you even think that? No, the God King just needs to give away those breaths that he holds, and then he can go and live the rest of his life in peace. We take a new infant returning as a sign that the previous God King has done his duty and that he should be allowed to live the rest of his life without these burdens.
Then why? I mean, I know there's an explanation here. The explanation is that they're trying to protect their religion or lineage claim or whatever. But it's then why all the subterfuge? Just make that a part of your religion. That when a new returned infant is born, it's time for the other one to retire. And I think my biggest problem besides the pacing with this book is which I know characters lie. I get it. Yep. That's a thing. But the constant, it feels like it's almost been constant with this book. It's it works like this. Actually, no, that was a lie. It doesn't work like that. It actually works this way. And I'm just ugh, come on. How are we supposed to figure any of this out then?
It's actually even worse. The annotation.
Oh, good.
Yeah, the annotation here says Trellides is lying about two things here.
Oh my God.
First off, he does know how a God King can have a child, but he knows that the secret is also held by a secure group of priests on the islands, and he doesn't think letting Ciri know about that one is a good idea for now.
Oh my God.
Oh,
it probably is the return has to be with somebody from the official lineage or whatever. And so it's her, and so whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't care anymore.
He does want to pass on how to get Susebron's breaths away from him should it become necessary. He knows that those need to be passed on, even if the God King does have a child. That's the greater secret, but the one that needs to be known to Ciri. Those breaths cannot be allowed to die with Susebron. So why not bring this up in the book? Brandon asks out loud.
Well, to himself.
Yeah.
Oh, Brandon is saying the quiet part loud.
Excellent question, me.
He says, well, I learned in Elantris that it's easy to over-twist an ending by having too many reveals. This is a very small point, and there is a good rationalization for why Trellides doesn't let on what he knows, so I felt it was better to let the story stand as is without delving into that. Of course, there is a hint in the text about it, or at least a question. If they depended only on a returned child taking Susebron's place, why were they worried about Ciri having sex with Susebron? They didn't need her to sleep with them unless they were expecting the sex to do something.
Mm-hmm. So I'm right. So it's that could happen. He could have a baby with her.
Yeah, and in annotations in earlier chapters, which I didn't read, it was basically they're hoping that she will have a kid with him, and then maybe that can be the next God King. They would prefer that, but if that doesn't happen, then they have this other plan that they need to get into place pretty quickly.
I guess it's true because in this situation now, knowing what we know about breaths, the child doesn't have to be returned. It could just be a regular person with a bunch of breath, and it would still function the same way as the returned, except it wouldn't have the deific breath. That would be the only difference.
I mean, I don't know if they would want someone not returned as the king though, because it's the God King wouldn't be one of the gods if it wasn't returned.
If she can only. Well, I mean, you could tell by looking at him, I guess, that he's not the same size.
Yeah,
as the
you
other
can't change
or
your
whatever.
shape or whatever. Yeah. He says, I'm sorry to leave this issue a mystery, and I'm even more sorry to not explain how Susebron can give away his breaths and just have Trellides die here. It's not important to this book, so I felt that having Trellides give the explanation would just bog things down. I'd rather wait until the sequel where I detail the magic system in a more complete form to give you those.
If I ever get around to writing it.
He didn't say it that time, but yeah.
I swear to God, I'm getting very sick of that. Yeah, maybe it'll be the sequel if I write it. Stop saying that.
But yeah, so we get the explanation of mostly stuff that we already knew here. The God King has these two kinds of breaths. He has his innate divine breath, which makes him returned, but then he has these 50,000 plus breaths on top of that. And she's like, oh, but you keep him from realizing that he could like use those breaths like another awakener. And like, we don't keep them specifically. It just doesn't come up. Why would the return care about awakening? They have everything they need.
Oh my gosh.
Why cut out his tongue so he can't awaken things? If he's got everything he needs, it shouldn't be an issue.
And she's like, yeah, I'm surprised you didn't cut out all the gods' tongues to hide your precious secret. And Trellides is pissed off now. He's like, you're still judging us. Whatever. We do what we have to do. If Khalad's army ever returns from where it was exiled, we ... And then the battle is coming closer. Trellides is like, no, get out of here. And he gets killed before he can tell them how to get that breath out of the God King. And here comes Bluefingers now that the Lifeless have slaughtered the soldiers and priests who were defending them. Now, Vessel, I believe we were going somewhere. And then we cut to Vivenna at the gate, and there's a guard at the gate like, oh, yeah, I can't let you in here. Vivenna's like, don't you see how many breaths I hold? I'm so important. You can't just turn me away. But there's stuff going on. And I'm not even sure, like, if these guards are actual guards or if they're, like, you know, Bluefingers people who have taken over the main gate. I don't know. And Nightblood's like, I mean, just go to the side. Vasher doesn't ask if he can go in. He just goes in. And so she awakens a tapestry to lift her up and take her over the wall. And she gets spotted, and everyone's like, get her. And Nightblood's like, you're not better at this than Vasher. You people can't sneak at all. Yestiel would be so disappointed in you. And there was an annotation here being like, yes, Yestiel is much better at sneaking than these people. And Nightblood can feel where Vasher is. Like, he tells her, like, he's in that part of the palace, 3rd floor, where he and I were before. And she thinks remarkably useful for an evil weapon of destruction. He's like, I'm not evil. I destroy evil. I think maybe we should destroy those guys up there. They look evil. You should pull me out. And so there's a bunch of soldiers, and she's just like, Oster, forgive me, and tosses Nightblood at them. And Nightblood's like, okay, well, this works too. And then she leaves. She runs off to the side and just leaves them to do whatever they're going to do with the sword. And she hears the men screaming, and Nightblood, so much evil, Nightblood said, like a woman tisking as she cleaned cobwebs from her ceiling. He's like, just so much evil to clean up. All right.
Tasty, tasty evil.
And somebody shoots an arrow at her, but her cloak, which she awakened to protect her, grabs the arrow. So that's nice. That is a very useful cloak command.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then we come back to Lightsong, who's all depressed and imprisoned still. Not even bleeding anymore, so it really wasn't that bad a wound given that he was jabbed with a sword. But this is where he notices. He's like, a normal person probably wouldn't have noticed, but I have these heightenings. These guys, their skin tone is a little different from like the normal Halandran skin tone. They're not from here, which was what Joe's pointing out. It's like, that's a little bit of a convenience.
Is it just the first time they're noticing this now? It's like,
apparently.
Surely Pankal people are everywhere.
Right? But yes, he figures out that these must be Pankal people, and he's like, we've all been idiots. Okay. And meanwhile, Bluefingers is taking Ciri and Susebron somewhere, and she's trying to convince him, like, no, you can't do this. And he says, this is the only way we'll be able to break free. You can't. The Idrians are innocent. Also, your people are not innocent. Like, you were Halandran during the Many War. You only split at the end when the royal family ran off. And so one of the guys who was probably one of the guys interrogating Lightsong is like, hey, we have the security phrase. We checked it. It works. We've changed it to the new one. All the Lifeless are ours now. And Bluefinger says, okay, give the command. Order the Lifeless to march on Idris. And then he looks sad after this guy leaves. And Ciri's like, what do you have to be sad about? And he says, my friends are the only ones who know the command phrase for Halandran's Lifeless army. And once they march, they're going to kill themselves with poison so that no one can stop the Lifeless. Which, geez, that's some commitment. And the last annotation I have is that currently, because of all the craziness happening in the Court of the Gods, the tunnels under the court are clogged with priests getting their various deities out of danger. This is why Bluefingers is slightly frustrated in these series scenes. His original plan had been to get the God King out to a waiting boat. He wanted to keep him as a prisoner. executing him, as he outlines here, is a backup plan and one that he decides to implement. So they're going to take the God King downstairs and they're going to kill him. And they're going to like put Halandrin, or no, I'm sorry, not Halandrin. They're going to put Idrians that they took from the city, some dead Idrians all around the God King. So it looks like they've killed him. And then they're going to put the dead bodies of Lightsong and Blushweaver down in the lifeless paddocks, whatever they're called, lifeless barracks, so that it will look like they sent the armies in retribution for the Idrians killing the God King and then were killed themselves. And Bluefinger's is like, I wish you hadn't gotten involved in all this. It would have been easier for me if you'd been able to keep yourself from getting pregnant. And she's like, but I'm not pregnant. He's like, well, the people think you are, so that's what matters. We have to break this government, and we have to make the Idrians angry enough to want to destroy Halandrin. I think your people will do better in this war than everyone says, especially if the Lifeless march without leadership, which it's mentioned in earlier annotations, but Brandon's like, yes, the Idrians will do better, or would do better, in a war between the two countries than anyone thinks, because they will gather allies from the other side of the mountains, including Yestiel, who is out there and knows how to make swords like Nightblood, and he will share that knowledge, and the war will basically encompass the world and destroy everything with like these Nightblood swords out there slaughtering by the tons. So this it's not going to go as well for Bluefingers as he thinks it is.
Yeah, but I don't understand that. Like, why would they ally with people that awaken?
I mean, if the choice is extinction or like taking whatever allies you can get, I mean, they probably,
I guess.
But yeah, so the plan is Ciri figures out that they're going to kill her, the supposedly pregnant queen, in order to enrage her people into wanting to fight. Nobody will ever realize.
It's still pretty well thought out. They've really thought out their options.
Yeah, it's a pretty good plan. They just can't anticipate some of the ramifications. But yeah, that's the end of our chapter. They're going to kill the God King. They're going to kill Ciri. They're going to kill Lightsong because that's part of the plan too. So not looking great for our friends.
I just can't believe
nobody's going to make it out alive.
Yeah. I can't believe how much stuff he's just throwing into the annotations. By the way, Yestiel's still alive and he knows how to make swords like Nightblood. Whoa, game changer.
Yeah, right.
I wonder if they all know, but just like Vasher would never do it, and neither would Denth, because Denth was obviously there at his inception.
Yeah, so probably Denth would know, right?
So I would imagine they probably all know. All the scholars that are left know.
Yeah, maybe the others just weren't as eager to share it with everybody. Maybe Vasher made the rest understand or something that.
Yeah. Again,
I'm
saying that still assuming that my theory is correct and those are the scholars.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we haven't gotten any confirmation on that. So, yeah, there we go. Sanderlanche territory. Things happening. Just bam, bam, bam. Characters dying, being tortured, all sorts of fun stuff. So,
sure.
We have 3 chapters and an epilogue left to wrap up everything that's happening. Predicaments. What's going to happen? How's this book gonna end?
God King's gonna die. Still think Ravenna will become Warbreaker. Maybe a returned Idrian is like the spark, just like, they can unite over a common cause there. I think Ciri is pregnant. I think she will bear the God King's child. Whether or not like that child will have powers or not is who knows. I feel like maybe the epilogue will be like some months later. And we see the child born in that time, but that's the stab in the dark on that one. Yeah, so that's where I think those two are. I think Ravenna will take Lightsong. I think Vasher will die by the end of it, but I think he will die taking Denth down. Although that might be a bit cliche for Brandon, who knows? I want to see Tonkfar get killed by Nightblood. I would love to see. Wouldn't that be cool? Like Tonkfar runs into Ravenna, knocks her to the ground, but he gets a hold of Nightblood somehow, and he draws it ready to use on Ravenna, but then that he winds up being killed by it, but because the sword is completely unsheathed, Ravenna has to take it, try and get it sheathed, and maybe that's how she becomes a returned. I don't know. Let's just see Tonkfar go down on Nightblood somehow, because that would make me so happy. Okay. That's 3 of the 4. I've got no idea where Lightsong's going. Maybe he'll be like a new leader among the gods. now that he's found his purpose, and he starts mandating, no, they need to know who they were so they can learn why they are worthy of being gods, so that they can, earn that worthiness, I guess. Yeah, it's like the Thor thing. You got to learn humility before you can become king of Asgard.
Yeah, no, I like that comparison.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll go with that. So yeah, Vasher's the only one of the key four to die, I think. Bluefingers, fuck only knows how he's gonna go down, but yeah, he will, and it'll hopefully be satisfying.
Okay. Oh yeah, there's some interesting possibilities in there. Okay, yeah, I like. I like this idea about Tongfa and getting killed by the sword in maybe a way that we haven't seen, because we still have not seen anyone draw Nightblood, so we have to see that before the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for the sequel also.
But I feel like if there is one character in this book who we can call irredeemably evil, Tongfa is it.
No, yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Like Bluefingers is the villain, but he does have his reasons for what he's doing, and you can't say that he's not justified in some of them at least.
Yeah, I mean, he wants freedom for his people. If you turn this whole thing another way, that would be the hero of the story. That would be like the Kelsier of the story.
Yeah, he's the Spartacus of the Pankal. And you'll have the group of people going, "No, I am Bluefingers. No, I am Bluefingers."
Let's take this piece by piece here. I think Vivenna will save Vasher. Vasher, with all the talk of duels and Dent's like, there's no way that you beat our steel or whatever. I think Dent is going to challenge Vasher to a duel, or Vasher's going to duel with Dent. Okay. And then I think Vasher's going to kill Dent. I don't think Vasher's going to die. He's my favorite character in this book. If he dies, then this book sucks. And so I think they're going to duel maybe, and then that would be cool if Tongfa was killed by Nightblood. I gotta agree with Dak on that. I'm gonna throw that in there as well. And then I think Ciri and Susubron are, I don't know, maybe we haven't seen this deific breath be used yet. Neither Susubron's or Light Songs or anybody. I feel like we gotta see some deific breath get used.
Okay.
So whether that means Light Song dies or Susubron dies using their breath, their deific breath, that would be pretty interesting.
You theorize that some of these other people might be secretly returned, so that opens it up that one of them could too.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, maybe I still think Vasher's returned. I don't know about Denth, because we don't know how many breaths Denth has.
I think we've gotten actually a pretty good idea, at least at the beginning of the book, that he only had one, because he tells Vivenna, the one that I have is good enough for me. And then when she gets the power, she can tell if other people have a lot of breath. And I think she would have noticed if he was some crazy high heightening.
So he wants to use the breath but not have it himself. That's interesting. I don't know. So, yeah, how it's going to end, the book's called Warbreaker. I assume the war is going to be broken, and it's not going to happen. That would be my assumption based on the title of the book alone. And so maybe the use of the deific breath is to take control of all the lifeless immediately to stop them. I feel like maybe a deific breath could do that, or to destroy the lifeless. I don't know if a deific breath could do that. I think Jules and Claude need to come back too. So I'm going to say that they come back and actually help Vivenna in some way. They turn on Dent and Tongfa. We haven't seen him in a while. We don't even know. He
doesn't like Vivenna though.
Yeah, but we saw Claude do that weird almost what's the word I'm looking for? Almost
live? I don't know.
Yeah, but what's the word? There's that episode of Star Trek where they have a trial to decide if Data is sentient.
Oh, sentient. Yeah.
Yeah. So Claude is showing some sign of sentience, and so I think maybe he'll kind of act on his own again.
Okay.
Yeah, that could be interesting. Let's go with what Dak said. I think Ciri is going to be actually end up being pregnant, and so if Susubron survives, they could be the new royal family or whatever. If he doesn't survive, then her child could take over the kingdom. Be extra funny if it was a girl, because it seems like they kind of skip over girls in the airship of this in this world. So it'd be funny if it's like, well, no, she's got all the breaths. She's the child of she's the only heir to the throne or whatever. Yeah, that's about what I got, I guess. I think Vasher's gonna walk away from this. I think Dent's gonna die. I think Ciri and Susebron are gonna end up having a kid, whether Susebron's alive for it or not. I think we're gonna see a use of deific breath. I think we're gonna see Claude again. Those are the things that I think will happen.
Okay, fair. I like your stance on it. It's like Vasher's not gonna die because he's my favorite, and if he dies, then this sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole reason that Daryl survived Walking Dead, the TV show. It's because everybody loved him, and they're like, "Don't kill Daryl. We're not gonna watch the show." And now they have a spin-off show with Daryl in it. So
yeah, there you go.
Okay. So you kind of get to this point, and you're like, I still don't know how it's gonna go. So let's see where we're at. We're down Blushweaver, so there is an opening in the Court of the Gods. Anyway, however, I don't know. So when you're returned, you have your own deific breath.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's it.
Yeah.
What they give us the impression here that's what makes you returned is this super breath.
Yeah, but then if you give away your deific breath,
you die.
You die, or if you've got another breath, you just need to keep having a breath. You need the deific breath.
That is a good question that I don't know that we know the answer to. We do know that if they give up their breath to heal someone, they die, but
if they have more breath, they might be okay.
Yeah, we don't know. That's a good point.
Okay. All right. I think Vivenna will die. I think Vivenna will die, but I think she will come back as a returned.
Okay.
I think she will use Nightblood to the best of her ability, because she seems to have a nice little bond with Nightblood, as much as one can. I like to think that Vasher and Nightblood will be able to go on their merry way together, because they're kind of a weird fit for each other, but they seem to have a good thing going, pretty much. So I don't know that Vivenna would keep Nightblood, but I think her using Nightblood would somehow end the war before it goes too far. I don't know how that will work yet, but that's what I think with those guys. Lightsong, I think this is a chance for him to be actually the god that he needs to be. He keeps talking about how he's not a god and there are so many better other ones before him and they're not like that. I think maybe he will go on and actually behave like a god, which would be nice. And I also hope Tongfa dies a painful death. Preferably with Nightblood as the weapon, but we'll see. I'll take what we get. I hope he's treated just as well as Parlin. Yeah, that's, even though Tongfa probably didn't have a lot to do with that. It was probably Denth in the torture space, but
well, we know that Tongfa is the one who killed him, because it's like Denth left and then things got out of control and Tongfa tortured him.
That's right. Okay, in that case, I go with my original statement. Ciri and Susebron, I think she is pregnant because of Lightsong's dream. Like that night that they something changed then, unless that was the start of the war. I don't know, but I think she is pregnant. I can't decide with Susebron. I don't know whether I think he should die or not. I hope that I'd like to hope that he and Ciri can have happiness together. I'd love to say, they can then go and rule the kingdom properly, how it should be, and, Hallandren and Idris unite and, against their common enemy, but just kind of do a better job of things. I would like that. I don't know that it'll go that way, but I would like that.
That would be kind of a nice picture, like the two of them ruling together. Maybe Ciri is gets to be his voice to say the things that he wants to say since he can't say them himself. Be a good team.
Yeah. Maybe they have a child and the child's really sick or something, and then Susebron gives up his breath so that the child can go on, and that's the true heir of everything, and they have the royal locks and super god powers.
It could be. Since we haven't seen someone, giving up their breath to heal or anything like that, I guess we don't know if you have to talk to do that, because it may be impossible for Susebron to do that.
Yeah, but there's got to be a way that he can pass on the breath.
Right?
It's the deific breath, but our good friend Trellides, who's holding out on us this whole time, he was trying to allude to the fact that there is a way he can pass it on, because it can't die with him. if the only way to pass it on was to speak, then surely they wouldn't have cut out his tongue.
Yeah, good point. Maybe we'll find out. Maybe not.
I mean, like, I hope so. I don't want to have to wait a really long time for Warbreaker Part 2. I actually really like the story, and I'd like to know.
That's no fun to have to wait for the sequel since, hold on, when did this book come out now? Warbreaker released.
You say it was like
2009,
2010.
Yep. So
yeah.
it's been almost 15 years.
Yeah.
Long time to wait for a sequel. Oh well. This is one of the books that people are like, hey, Brandon, we want you to write the sequel to this. Although I feel like it is not a book that ends so open-endedly that everyone's like, oh, you got to write a sequel. There are definitely other books that he's done that are calling out for a sequel way more desperately than this one is. So I'll despite everything, he's like, I'll explain this in the sequel maybe. So I don't know. Maybe that makes you feel slightly better about it. Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe we get some answers.
Okay. I guess let's do our word of Brandon of the week and see what you guys think of this one. This one is a longer one, but I find it kind of interesting. So the person asking the question says, hey, what would happen if Hoyd held Nightblood? And Brandon says, Hoyd would not do that. No, Hoyd would stay very far away. And the guy says, he wouldn't even hold it? And Brandon says, he would stay really far away. There are very few things in the Cosmere that Hoyd is afraid of, and Nightblood is one of them. And the guy says, well, I thought he'd be afraid of, like the Blade End, but, and Brandon says, okay, so let's say if a very, very, very few things in the Cosmere had a chance of destroying you, you wouldn't even pick one of them up. You'd try to be in a different room entirely. And then in the note here, it's like people start whispering to each other about Nightblood being able to destroy Hoyd. And then Brandon goes, I didn't say that. I said, theoretically, I said, had a chance of, I did not confirm. Hoyd doesn't know, but there's a chance. So he's not even going to risk that. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, my first thought when you said, no, he would stay very far away from it. He wouldn't even hold. And the guy's like, he wouldn't even hold it. It's like, no. He would stay very far away from it. Like, my thought is, what does Nightblood do? He seems to suck out investiture and absorb it into himself. Almost like other stories, which I don't know that this is the case because it's not said, but I almost wonder if, like, by absorbing it, he's making himself more powerful. He may not be. The sword may have the same power it always does, but that's just the thought that I had. And so if you have somebody like Hoyd, who we've seen kind of collecting different investitures, I would imagine that he would not want anything sucked out of him that is a part of him, just like no one would. But since we already know that Nightblood saps breath, which is investiture, it's not too crazy to think that maybe he could sap other kinds of investiture, although maybe the correlation between him sapping breath is the fact that he's made out of breath, or he's been invested with breath, that specific type of investiture. But that's my thought on it. Was like, well, yeah, if he could sap life and breath out of people, then he might be able to sap any kind of stuff out of somebody, like that's investiture related.
Yeah, that's my thought too.
Yeah. Okay. Any additional thoughts, Jamie?
No, I think that's pretty interesting. I would think to agree with the investiture. Like, we don't fully understand what Hoyd has got going on.
Nope.
So yeah, but obviously something that is so powerful, and yeah, I could completely get he wanting to stay away from that. I'd love to know whether Brandon knows what would destroy Hoyd.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that he probably does, that he has something in mind, but who knows?
Mm.
And I guess this is the first that we're hearing about that Hoyd is not is tougher than a normal human to kill.
I think we all just kind of assumed that he was anyway.
Mm.
Where does Warbreaker take place in the timeline of the Cosmere?
Okay, timeline. Good question. Let me bring up this the fan made timeline thing. I'll kind of let's see. Fjordal, Shuden, Scadrial, all this. Here we go. So the timeline that they have here goes: Rashek ascends to power using the Well of Ascension. Then the discovery of Awakening is like 800 years after that. And then the Many War is 100 years after that. And then Kelsier is born 60 years after the Many War. And this happens. Okay, so Sazed ascends to become Harmony. This has Kelsier would have been about 40 at that point by this timeline. And then the Pancall Rebellion takes place, according to this, about 200 years after that. So that's what we're seeing. Is what they're calling the Pancall Rebellion here.
So like 100 years before Wax and Wane.
So yeah, about 100 years before Wax and Wane.
Okay. I was just wondering whether like Nightblood maybe would have a particular effect on like a shard or something. You know, if we I think we had a theory once before that Hoyd was like actually the space dragon. It was, you know, at Analthium before everything was split out. I was like, I wonder if whether it was Nightblood or maybe something very similar to Nightblood did that, like broke the shards, and maybe like I'd be staying pretty clear of that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it seems like probably if you're killing God, you have to have some sort of special something or other. All right, so for next time, we're going to finish this book. That's 3 chapters, 56, 57, 58, and the epilogue. So we're wrapping up this one. We're going to move into Way of Kings after that. Very exciting for all of you out there who have been waiting for a long time for Stormlight. Speaking of, we have one email this week, which is focused on that, or in that direction, rather. So Adam sends this email's title, Advice for Reading Stormlight. And he says, Hi, Sanderlanche crew. I've hopefully timed this email to be right before you start Way of Kings. I'm sure that everyone's excited for y'all to start Stormlight Archive, but I have some advice for first-time readers. While Stormlight is a great series, it has some of the densest world building of any Brandon book, and definitely rewards rereads to catch minor details and foreshadowing. Since Zeta has said that he wants the newbies to get as much as they can out of their first read, I suggest that you might want to take detailed notes on the tidbits of world building that you spot so that you can do your best to keep as much of it in mind as you go. I know that's a tall ask considering the length of the books, but it would hopefully help you spot clues and connections better without having to reread. I absolutely love Stormlight and discover new things each time I read it, so I hope this helps you all. Looking forward to the journey, from Adam. So I think I've mentioned that before. That's like, this is the kind of book that you might want to do that, but I know that, not everybody has time for that sort of thing. So I'm going to do my best as we're reading to call out things that it's like, hey, I don't know if you remember, but this is related to this thing that we read, a few chapters ago, which I kind of already do for you guys. So hopefully, yeah, I think I brought it before. Probably wouldn't hurt if somebody wanted to take notes because it is, they're not wrong. It's some dense world building, and there's so many little threads, but you'll see. We're going to get there soon.
Alrighty.
So thank you, Adam, for your email. If anyone else would like to send us an email, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram and Twitter and Patreon, where I finished reading the last secret project, You, Me, and the Nightmare Painter, and I uploaded my unboxing of the Warbreaker box, which had the cool Nightblood letter opener, and also had the Vivenna pin, which is sparkly.
True. It is.
So that was a fun box. Joe helped me open it. I figured that there shouldn't be too many spoilers since we were almost at the end of the book.
Yeah, there really wasn't.
Not that you saw anyway. Maybe there's something super spoily in there and you shouldn't recognize it.
I don't think so.
They've included this full-size artwork of Trellides rising from the grave with Nightblood in hand and going on a bender.
Oh no, these coasters have a symbol on them. Oh, what have I seen?
Yeah, the coasters have the Tear of Edgeley flower that gets mentioned several times in here. Now we've just revealed like most of what was in that. I'm sorry if you haven't gotten your box yet and we spoiled that.
You know what? Too bad.
But yeah, there's only 3 more box left in the amazing year of Sanderson. So and the next one.
What a wild year it's been.
The next one should be the next book. So.
Yep, end of this month it will be.
It's crazy, dude. I mean, can you imagine back when in last November when we were at the con and they were saying, "Look at all this stuff that's coming out," and now it's come out.
Yep.
I will say
so much stuff.
Yeah, I will say, which I think everybody's been impressed with this, so I'm sure I'm not the first person to shout this out, but just the constant updates, the feedback, the delivery of these items through a Kickstarter, I think there's a reason that it's the most successful Kickstarter of all time, because Brandon and his company, they care about what they're doing, and they did a good job with the handling of everything with this stuff. So professional. You could tell it was like, it's not a startup. This is obviously a working machine at work. It was done so well and so thoughtfully that I think they deserve all the accolades and, quite frankly, the money that they got for this Kickstarter, because it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's one place that Brandon has always stood out, is his openness and communication with his fandom. And this was not an exception. Even when stuff was late, like running late, some of the boxes, it was like they were very open with everything. And so
yeah, they said,
nice.
Hey, the binding is messed up here. We got to redo this. So it's going to be a little longer. We're sorry. We want to get the best product out to you guys that we can. So we're going to have to send this back and redo it. And that's going to make stuff late. But, that's okay.
Yep. Okay. So, like I said, end of the book, or to the end of the book for next time, 3 chapters and an epilogue for anyone who's following along. And then we're going to move into The Way of Kings. So be ready for that, all of you Stormlight fans out there. Music by Miracle of Sound. And Wasing to the Time of Next. Colo, PS Fashion.